Welcome to this episode of Athletic Training Chat. We are talking on a round table today with Emily Huston and Eric Rogers about NATA Renewal and why they chose to, why they consider not. Both have unique perspectives on it. I throw in my own opinion and why I do it as well, so you can get that side of it. But really, we kind of cover the full gamut and really tried to focus in on what would be value. What would people see as the value of that membership, both at the national level, but then as it moves down into the regional and ultimately to the state level as well. So lots that we cover. It's a little bit after NATA renewal season that this is getting out. Apologies for the delay, but I just wanted to have a conversation about it as it comes up every year on the importance of it, if people are, the financial commitment, and so many other things. And so ultimately, again, that's why we wanted to have this conversation. We hope you take something away from it. If you have an opinion on it and you want to share it publicly through the podcast, I'd be happy to talk to you and hear your side and everything that goes into that as well. If you haven't checked out the Athletic Training Daily Journal yet, it is on Amazon. You can get it there to have it fully bound. You can purchase a digital option off of clinicallypress.org or go there and find the 14-day free trial to see if it's something you'd even be interested in when it comes to journaling. But it's meant to be specific to the profession and really dive into things that can impact both your professional and personal growth. As always, powered by Mueller Sports Medicine. Can't thank them enough for their support for us and everything that we do. We just means the world to us, and we know they really care about athletic trainers. So please check them out for any of your sports medicine needs. But without further ado, please enjoy this episode. Well, welcome to this episode of Athletic Training Chat. This is a roundtable discussion that the table just got a little smaller to be on the round. We had 5 or 6 people, and then in the world of things come up, a couple people weren't able to make it, but we still wanted to have the conversation around NATA membership renewal. This is being recorded on the 5th of January, so still kind of in the membership drive. People may have let it lapse or not from the end of 2023. But we wanted to still have the conversation. We have Eric Rogers with us and Emily Huston. I'll let them introduce themselves in a second, but basically just wanted to cover why, to spoiler alert, everybody eventually renewed in some capacity, but some of the thought process of maybe why they weren't considering renewing or how that looked, and just kind of have more of a conversation about it that's a little wider than 280 characters. So with that, Emily, I'll just turn it over to you first. If you kind of fill in who you are, what you're doing, kind of what your current state of in the AT realm is, and then Eric will have you follow her.
My name's Emily Huston. I have been an athletic trainer for 11 years. I got my undergrad at Emporia State and my post-professional master's at Ohio University. I've kind of been in just about every setting. I've done high school, I've done collegiate, done outreach to the hospital. My favorite setting was Alaska. I practiced in Alaska for 4 years and got to do some traditional and a lot of non-traditional stuff. But currently I am a physician's assistant student, so I am kind of in the process of leaving the profession, but I do intend to keep at least the ATC credential, not necessarily the licensing, when I am done, though.
Eric?
My name is Eric Rogers. I've been an athletic trainer for 13 years. Got my undergrad at Indiana University and then went right into working high school. I've worked in small county schools to now working large metro high schools. I've also worked as a athlete trainer and physician setting for a little bit. and yeah, really enjoy the high school athletic training realm and getting to see different things every day.
Have never worked it, but you do the people's work in the secondary setting from what I can gather from both of you having done it. Never done it, not sure I could, but I applaud and respect everybody who has and does. First is going around current NATA membership status. For me, renewed, almost forgot apparently, thought I had, realized I hadn't, but we're currently a member, and according to NATA, I have not let that lapse at any point, even though I thought I had. So kudos to me for not screwing that up at some point along the way. Emily, actually, Eric, we'll go to you. Currently a member.
Yeah, so I've been a member since I was a student in the athletic training program. So I've been a member for now 17 years. I've been really on the fence the last couple years, and kind of got right down to that deadline and have kept trying to see if it's worth it to me. But inevitably the last 2 years I have decided to renew.
Get a little bit more into that. And then Emily, we were talking before, kind of a unique membership.
Yes. So I've also been a member since I was an athletic training student in undergrad. And I was on the fence mainly because my status is a physician assistant student. But I did end up renewing because they allowed me to renew as a student, since I am technically a student again. But that's kind of where I am.
I've been working through a doctoral program and thought about going back and being like, so can I pull the student off, even though I'm technically, but we'll see. Diving a little bit more into the factors that, Eric, will start with you.
Yeah.
Made you, question whether you were going to renew, but what ultimately led you to renewing. And again, as this kind of roundtable thing, Emily, if there's anything that you've got like a question on that comes up, feel free to jump in on that. It's not just me asking the questions, and vice versa for you, Eric.
No. So for me, the last couple of years, it's really been kind of like, what am I getting in return in my membership? And you look at finances the last couple of years, like, $8 for a box of cereal. You're like, man, is that 200 something dollars that I'm spending a year on this? Am I getting that value? And whenever I kind of look to other members, or even, reach out to NATA, there you go, you get 10 free CEUs. And I'm like, they're not free, I'm paying for them. You get discounted access to NATA symposiums, but because of the cost of hotels and travel, in 13 years I've never been to an NATA convention, so that discount doesn't apply to me in a way. So as I kind of look, I'm like, what am I getting in that? I don't feel like I've gotten a lot out of it. So that's where I've been kind of fighting with myself, and is that value there? And a lot of times when I ask for the NATA to display their value, I get told, nothing, but I'm required to display my value all the time and trying to get more money, as a salary or anything like that. So it's hard when you're asked to display your value, but when you ask that of someone else and they don't respond, it's hard to hear.
Emily, what about you?
So
PA school puts a big thing into it.
But kind of the same thing. When I was younger, I tried to go to convention every other year. They do have great offerings there, I think. And getting to catch up with my old classmates while we were still younger was kind of a bonus. So they do offer the discount for that. But especially when I moved to Alaska, Convention happens in the summer, and during the summer up there was a college league baseball team that played, and then I was also responsible for some of the care of our wildland firefighters, and that's prime season, so it's not really able to get away at that point. And also travel in the summer with anything to do with Alaska is much more expensive, just because that's when people come, when they should come in the winter. Spoiler alert, you should. But I just have kind of, especially the last couple years, because I had to redo some prereqs and take some different ones. So a lot of my CEUs would come from those classes, because you get 10 CEUs for every 1 credit hour. So my 4-hour organic chemistry class took up a lot of it. You still obviously need those category A's, and you can get them from your balance of free CEUs or discounted CEUs that you get when you renew. But there's also so many other places. But I guess the thing that kind of held me on was after the pandemic, they put a lot of the convention virtually. And that was nice to still be able to hear some of those things. But ultimately, they put a lot of those sessions up as category A CEUs in the professional development center anyway. So, but then obviously I am currently unemployed, going into lots of student debt right now in PA school. So budgeting has become a lot bigger thing in the forefront of my mind. And that's kind of where I was. But the fact that I was able to renew as a student, kind of, I'm like, all right, you know what, that saves me $150. And then I can still kind of keep up with the profession. I can still be a part of it, because I do fully intend to keep my ATC credential when I become a physician's assistant.
I want to try and dig into the value, and I've none of this has got you, and more out of curiosity. First question is, we get this one a lot. I serve on our state association, so we're dealing with our own membership issues, and a lot of conversations come up of, you can be a state member but not a national member, and obviously if you're a national member, that rolls down, and depending on state costs and things like that, they can take a decent chunk of your NATA membership between that and the district. How much does that impact you, knowing that money is sort of rolling downhill based on what your state is setting up, in terms of that value, or the consideration of maybe just becoming a member of your state, which should obviously be cheaper, and maybe seemingly have more impact on you because it's where you practice? Whoever would like to start.
I'll jump in. I know I've looked into that the last 2 years, because I do want to make sure I'm supporting my state. And but it's one of those things, it's a very difficult process to be like, okay, I'm gonna let this one lapse, I'm gonna pay this one. So it was kind of a harder route to make that, like, yes, I'm gonna support kind of locally but not globally. So then I was like, do I even do any at all, and then just go to my like state conferences and stuff like that to help support that way. So because I get continuing ed money through my job, so then that money just helps fund my state association through that, and I get reimbursed for it. So just kind of hard to say, but I think it's a good option for people that want to feel connected, but maybe not pay the big national.
Any thoughts from you?
So, well, when I was in Alaska, I was part of the secondary school athletic trainers committee for AATA, and I was also the state YP representative, or it was YP, it's something else now.
Yes.
But so I was still involved. I was still very involved on the district level, and I kind of would, I guess, feel bad if I was in those positions and not a member of the full NATA. I guess it's kind of what it came down to for me.
That makes sense. I understand that. And then just diving a little bit more into the value. This is one, like, I've always wondered, and for me, getting staying a member, like when I first came out, it just felt like you were supposed to be doing it. I've been practicing 13 or 14 years. I got certified at the end of '08, so whatever that ends up equaling out to, maybe even longer. I don't know. Anyway, um, is wanting to get involved in the state level and ultimately, going on and, feeling like I could do something to contribute to the profession, which obviously is unpaid volunteer and depending on how much you want to get involved can be time consuming, depending on kind of what everything's going. But then you see a lot on social media is, what has the NATA done for me? What value do they provide? And I agree, Eric, what you're saying of like when they say like the CEUs and like the discounts and stuff, like, yeah, that's a part of it. But as much as that's like, monetary value, what is that beyond? And it seems like that doesn't always get articulated really well of what, and kind of going to the question is like, what would you perceive as value for that money that you're giving outside of the work that they do that we apparently don't always know enough about, and that's a whole other conversation. As an example, on our state level, we talk about that all the time. We're currently trying to get some administrative code change where we're included in parity language with insurers, which would just put us on the same level as every other health profession out there in terms of being able to then bill to insurance as that process keeps going. Wisconsin has happened to be on kind of sort of on the forefront of third-party billing just because we have one of the people that's kind of leading it in the state. And so we go back to that as the legislative efforts is where a lot of that, membership helps support that ultimately impacts you, even if you don't necessarily see it on a day-to-day basis until something bigger happens. But I'd just be curious if you guys had specific things that you would want to see, that you would see getting value back for the money that you're giving, if there's anything specific, or if it's really just having a better idea of what's actually happening, and if that's what you would perceive as valuable, if you knew what was actually happening.
So I was looking at the 2021 salary survey questionnaire, and it talked about challenges that we saw going forward, third-party member reimbursements, one of those. But one of the top three was lack of public understanding of the role of athletic trainers. And I think that is something that we want to see getting put out there, right? Is like, all right, you say that NATA doesn't help us get salaries, increase in salaries, that's for us to do. But then as a national brand, why are we not taking advantage of the Damar Hamlin situation and how prominent athletic trainers and the other medical staff were in his recovery? When we look at the Safer Sidelines news article that came out, why are we not putting that on a big poster, and putting that out in our organizations and being like, hey, we have these people and look how skilled they are, like, but it just seems like that doesn't get discussed. And I know that we have to have people that help with laws and get us on bills, and like New York just got licensed, and I understand that takes those PAC members and things like that, but even we don't see that getting promoted and what it takes. So I'd love to see like behind the scenes, like this is what that money goes to.
I guess for me, I always saw kind of the value was the discounted convention, the CEUs, but I've also now had to join my state association, Physician Assistant Association, and our national association, and I see like a huge difference between AAPA and NATA. You sign up as a student. I've gotten so many access to free material, like study materials, It's almost to the point of an annoyance here. You get the emails that put these resources in front of you, connect you with other students. And I was a student a while ago, so it could have changed, but I don't recall that support from the student side of NATA. And obviously I'm not a physician assistant yet, so I can't speak to the actual certified and licensed members of AAPA, and I don't know if they get that, but I've noticed a big difference between the two. And I know that, kind of like Eric said, the laws and stuff like licensing, third-party billing, they're, just the way our government's designed, anything is a pain to try to get through. But I would like to, I'm not knowledgeable in, exactly what the steps are to do that, other than like the schoolhouse rock. This is how a bill gets passed from elementary school. But I would like to see more, I guess, transparency of like what they're doing, what are the process, like where are we going with that. And I kind of like Eric spoke about the DeMar Hamlin situation. Like, obviously we don't want to capitalize on somebody who went through a horrific situation, but I think like stuff like that has done more to put us out there and get people to understand, like, we don't teach you how to work out. We don't just tape ankles. We are a health care profession. I think that stuff like that has done more for us than I've seen in ATA. And like I said, like, I know they do stuff behind the scenes, but I'd just like to see it, or see, kind of an outline of it. And I do get that through the student side of AAPA. Like, this is what we're working on. This is where we are. Here's an open discussion board if you have questions. I just don't see that really.
So it does seem fair to say that, to find that value of it, potentially all of the things they would be valuable are happening, but the communication about that isn't there. And like, and I saw it, to your point of like, they keep sending out these resources to the point that it's almost annoying, which I can't recall where I heard it from, but it's like, it's not until like the third time you like send something or repeat something to somebody that they actually maybe like consider it or like hear it. First time, like, oh yeah, it just got brushed off, but you almost have to do that in repeat for it to like get through to the majority of people. And would it be better to be annoyed but know that it's there than to be annoyed because you don't know that it's there?
I would say that, yeah, that's very fair. Especially if people are asking for it.
Which I feel like, social media is only a small part of the profession, obviously, and people that are on social media and who interact on it. But I feel like if those are the ones that are talking to you, and if you don't have another route to hear it, that might be a good place to start with listening.
I would agree with that.
For sure.
So any other things kind of around that, that you guys would see outside of communication that would remove your questioning of renewing and what the value of it is? Did the change to being able to apply that credit now to different things, is that a move, in your opinion, in the right direction? So now it's not, you can use them for your CEUs, your quote unquote free ones, or I believe you can actually use it as a discount on convention price, I believe. Hopefully I'm not butchering that.
I didn't look that far into it because I knew it wasn't going to convention, but it was worded differently. So
yeah, same. I didn't look into it because I was not planning on going to convention.
Oh, we're doing well on this because I'm hoping to speak at it this year, so I wouldn't have to necessarily get into it or have to hopefully cover that fee anyway. And when you mentioned that doing some stuff within the Alaska Athletic Trainers Association, Eric, have you done any committees or service?
So I have, when I was in Indiana, I was on the young professional committee for a little bit, and then since moving to North Carolina, I am not serving in that, but I am doing a leadership academy within the state association.
Either of you feel that kind of being involved in that regard has influenced you in most cases, just from this conversation and all of us, to renew, just because you've had experience of what it's like to be on the side of those committees and doing some of the work that, again, unpaid, it's all volunteer, but that ultimately, if we don't have people in those roles, things don't necessarily happen for the profession. Has that impacted you at all?
I think so.
I would say, go ahead. Go ahead.
I think so. I mean, like I said, that's where, like, at the national level, sometimes I'm not sure about it. But definitely at the local levels, I do know more pieces are happening because I am around it. And I think that's where just that being clear, transparent with what's going on with membership is, like, I see more at the state district level than I see coming from the national level.
My
For
thoughts.
me, yeah. There's, especially Alaska, there was not too many of us there. And so just about everybody had some kind of role, and sometimes several roles. So if we didn't do it, there's no one else we're looking to do
Sure.
it. So
Yeah, I think for me, and that's where I always go back and forth, with people that don't renew, and it's honestly everybody's choice. Like, that's, your thing. But then if you get out of the game, if you will, then, if things aren't advancing the way that you want them to, it's kind of hard to necessarily complain about it if you aren't trying to get involved and get into it. And again, I understand there's financial burdens, and I've been fortunate enough that I've been able to, similar to you, Eric, get reimbursed for everything. It would be a completely different conversation, I think, for me, which I've even thought about it, looking at jobs outside the profession. Like, as much as I would love to stay involved with it, is it worth that financial commitment every year unless you were involved in it? But I think I would encourage everybody to at least get involved in some level in your state association, just to see it and have that be a part of, knowing what's happening on the background and how those things work, coming down from the NATA to your district to your state, and how that all applies and works together. I think can be kind of a unique insight into how your membership dollars are being utilized, and hopefully in the right way, or in a way that you see useful. Other areas around your NATA membership renewal that you guys wanted to touch on?
I would say that I, am still optimistic in it. Like, I keep
sorry.
rooting for those things to kind of find that value, because, like I say, we are stronger, you know together than separate. And but it's just hard when you're not seeing where those monies are going, and you're like, what else can I do with it? Or
Sure.
being told, like, well, if you just gave up your Starbucks, then it would be
I
perfect. And
hate
I'm
that
like,
argument, because of
and you're
whoever it
like,
comes from.
yeah. And I'm like, I would be a much less happy athlete trainer without my Starbucks, or my athletes appreciate that I've had that cup of coffee.
I always enjoy it when it comes down from an administrator who rightfully is earning the amount of money that they're earning, but the amount of money they're earning is much more than a lot of the people they're asking to give up those things. It's just like it different world, man.
It hurts. It doesn't come off the way that they were hoping, I don't think.
I agree.
So like I said, I'm optimistic that, and I know that kind of like anything, if it's, you have to kind of look yourself for those things, and it's not just going to like show up. Someone's not going to just give you, the 12 reasons to join. Like, you have to find your purpose and meaning and connection to it. But sometimes as you're like, I'm looking, I'm not finding it, can you help me?
Sure.
And then you don't feel like you're getting that assistance in that journey to find the value, then you're like, well, I find value in other things. So
Yep.
so I'm hopeful that there'll be a little bit more transparency going forward.
Any other
I
thoughts,
think
Molly?
I think in the grand scheme of things, we are still in talking in medicine, we are still a new profession. You compare it to doctors, nurses, we're even a little bit newer than PAs, which kind of came about after World War II. So I think there are still some growing pains, and there's things we're going to have to do some trial and error for, and might kind of be our trial and some error, what we're going through now. But I think, and I don't know, obviously, because I'm not super involved at the national level, or never was. Are we maybe looking to other professions to say, hey, how did you do this? How do you
Sure.
do this? Like, talk to the AMA, AAPA. I don't know what the Nurses National Association is, but maybe talk to some of them, get some ideas, and kind of see where their member engagement is as opposed to ours. What percentage of nurses or doctors are a part of their national organization, and kind of maybe see how we can become more on par with them. We always talk about the team aspect of medicine, which is very true. Even in the new profession I'm going into, like, let's use that behind the scenes too.
Yeah, to kind of go off of something Eric had mentioned, I think it's important to realize that, as the individual, the NATA is not going to have the ability to come in and negotiate your salary for you. That's just not, in my personal opinion, like what their role is. It's a professional association. So a lot of that, it still comes down to you as the individual to advocate for yourself to do those. And if they, as a large organization, can provide you with information to help you in your own personal journey to whatever it is, that's where they can be useful. But again, the access to that, or I think one that's come up a lot that I think I would even be interested in seeing, have to figure out the logistics, is the career center, making it a requirement to have some sort of salary range, because there could be a range posted, so it's not just a blank spot. Or if there's a seemingly cutoff of just, we're not gonna, and I get that is also a financial, a way to bring in some financial help is through the career center, having to have posted in there before. But could we do something where we're having some sort of cutoff as kind of what this is the standard that we would like to see for the profession at minimum, and see if that doesn't help drive the conversation that's continuing to happen about better pay for different positions. I was just talking to a former student of mine who worked at a smaller D3 and told me what he got paid to start and what their head AT was paid, and the fact that those numbers weren't all that different from an assistant position I took 10 years ago. Like that seems like we could hopefully do better, especially if they're going to utilize that resource in the NATA Career Center. So I think kind of keeping that perspective on what they are doing for you versus not being able to necessarily guide every single person through whatever journey they're going through. That being said, there's a lot of good resources in there too. You just got to look for them. And again, back to the thing, maybe they need to be communicated more, like the mentorship option in there. I've utilized it. It's been great. Connected with somebody that we now meet monthly just to talk about stuff. It's been a huge benefit. Check those things out. Any other thoughts, since I just rambled for a while?
I would agree with the salary range on there for sure.
I mean, I'd love to see it on every job posting,
Yeah.
but if we
for
control,
one
we
that
can control.
Yeah, for one that's advocating for us. I had a professor in grad school Dr. Chad Starkey, who very much said those, $20,000 a year jobs, they're there because people take them. And obviously, like, everybody has financial needs, and sometimes that's what you can do. But if we can, the people posting that should be held accountable to, like, whether they're going to change it or not, they should at least know this is our salary range. This is what a comparable position is paid. Like, where, let's try to find your disconnect. If you're going to post it on here, like, let us at least try to educate you and obviously that gets into budgeting and universities and high schools and everything. And that's a whole nother can of worms, but
yeah.
But like, feel like they go for Ellis model, where those jobs, like, they post at a certain amount, and it's posted like it's $40 an hour, $45 an hour. Those get billed. The ones that post and it's like $18.75 an hour, $15 an hour, they still allow them to post, but they don't get picked up, because there's that transparency of like, why am I even reaching out to this coordinator when I know it's below the value of what our profession deserves? Versus you get into a job application that takes over an hour, to completely copy and paste your resume into this thing,
and then upload your resume anyway.
Upload your resume, and then after you wait and like here, and they're like, oh, the salary range is 25, and you're like, for a Division I college, you're paying less than 30. Okay, I make more than that working at a high school. So I don't know why anyone would do 60 plus hours a week for that, and most of them probably wouldn't if they would have known that salary ahead of time. So I feel like we should definitely be requiring that transparency with salary information or PRN information, to make it worth our time.
Agreed. Well, if there's nothing else specifically to the NATA membership, we can jump to the AT chat questions if you guys are up for it.
Yeah.
Relevant to it, but where do you see AT going in the next 5 to 10 years? And Emily, we'll start with you.
Apologies, my fur child is down here.
You're all good. We've had plenty of cat bloopers.
I think that, honestly, kind of speaking to the DeMar Hamlin situation, that and kind of the pandemic, I think, has done more for our salaries, and showing the profession in a positive light in general than, and obviously those are kind of acts of God too, so we can't always count on them, but
let's hope it's not another pandemic. I'm good.
But I think that it has put us more at the forefront. So I'm hopeful that we as athletic trainers, we as our national association can take that and kind of run with it and continue showcasing the profession in, I wouldn't say positive, definitely, but just in a wider spotlight, if that makes sense. Because I mean, the average person who looks at an athletic trainer sees an athletic trainer, on the sidelines of a big game, handing someone a towel, squirting water into their mouth. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but we do so much more. And I think if we can harness the cards that we've been dealt in the last 3 years and everything else that's happened, we can push forward and widen that spotlight to say we do so much more. And we want to grow our organization, we want athletic trainers, and we want the best for them as people too. We don't want to constantly have to fight salary battles, long hour battles, staffing battles. We want it to be better for the people here and the people coming into the profession.
Agreed. Eric?
Yeah, I think that there is a positive.
I just got my post-op meeting just got stepped on.
So I think that overall the AT is going to continue to grow. Like you're saying, like with the pandemic, and it has highlighted a lot of the things that we do as athletic trainers and the importance that we have. We had a little bit of a hiccup in the supply chain of athletic trainers as we switch from a bachelor's to master's. Not every school is able to maintain a master's or build a master's program. Then you had COVID hit, where you saw a decrease in number of students. So we're starting to have more people coming through the pipelines. So I think that will help in the number of athletic trainers that are available to fill positions. So hopefully the people that are serving in those roles don't get so burnt out because they're doing the work of 2 or 3 people, because there are actually enough people to cover multiple positions. And like Emily was saying, having that value demonstrated helps build the salary to keep good athletic trainers in the field, instead of switching over to insurance, instead of switching over to PA schools or other healthcare. I mean, in my company, we've had lots of people go to nursing, PA, insurance. We had someone that left to go work their family farm, so a lot of people are having to do what they have to do for their families. And like we said kind of before with membership, that's their choice and what's best for them. But I do think athletic training as a profession is going to continue to grow over the next 5 to 10 years.
Eric, we'll go back to you with this one. As an AT in your role, how do you take care of yourself?
I am an avid runner, so I run to take care of my mental, physical stress. So luckily, working at the high school, I have mornings off every day, but then the afternoons, evenings filled, so I can always get up early for the most part and go for a run. And then having a weight room, all that sort of stuff here, can get a workout in after practices or in between stuff. So that's how I take care of myself.
Emily, same question, but slightly modified. In your transition going through all this, how do you keep taking care of yourself?
Well, I'm very much a northern soul, so living in the South right now is not treating me very nice. But off Eric said, staying active, which I'm also currently not doing. But making time, and this can go to athletic trainers too, but like kind of taking one day of the week, even if it's half a day, to like put the books away or put work away and take it to yourself. Like for me, Sundays, sitting down, watching football game, or Saturdays. About to be basketball season again, so my team is not going to go very far in the playoffs if they keep playing the way they're playing. So my Sundays are going to be free pretty soon. But separating yourself and not making, whether it's athletic training school, not making that your full identity, like still leaving a space for you. So your runs, yes. Or, whatever you do.
And we'll just go right back to you on this one. If you could change or eliminate one thing, could be a modality, a common practice, a mindset, or anything of your choosing in the field of athletic training or just the profession in general, what would it be?
Definitely this is the way we've always done it mentality.
For sure.
And I can it's very easy to pin that on the old guard, which we are very much guilty of it too. We're all 10 plus years in, so we are kind of in the old guard a little bit as well, but things change. Research shows new things. Like I know when I was also a college athlete, so when I was, the thing you just did at the end of the day was you iced no matter what. And we've seen that change with ongoing research, and we're going to, that's the nature of medicine too. Like, I think we saw it in action during the pandemic, especially the beginning stages. Okay, know this, because of ongoing research. So definitely that mentality, like be open to new things, to new, whether it's treatments, new research opportunities, whatever, just be open to new things and keep learning too. Like that's definitely a cornerstone of any medical profession, is you have to keep learning or you're going to get left behind.
Eric?
Yeah, I would agree. I don't necessarily have like a modality or anything like that, just because I was always taught the kind of toolbox analogy, and so people be like, oh, KT tape, that has no business, it does nothing. And I'm like, it's not something I use on every single athlete, but for here and there, I think it works. Like I might
Because the
use
one
it
time it does, it's worth
right.
it.
I might use it in conjunction with other things, right? Like ultrasound. As a solo athletic trainer in a high school, a very large high school, I don't have 7 minutes to keep doing little circles and not be able to move. So for me, ultrasound doesn't work a lot of times, but in the wintertime when I have a more chill schedule for that athlete, I might do it. But like Emily was saying, being open to the changes that come up, whether that's cutting edge treatments or just revamping old ones. I think that's the big thing, is just kind of keeping up with the new trends and research that show, hey, ice is good for pain relief, but not so great for recovery. So
All the
I think
nuance that goes into it. Oh, no, go ahead.
And I think that can apply to like the mindset of our profession. Like, well, we've always worked 60 hours a week. We've always done this. We've always done that. Like, be open to finding ways to change that, whether it's staffing ratios, not necessarily a change in salary, but finding better ways to utilize your time, not just, well, we did that, so you have to do that too.
Not every minute of practice must be watched.
At a high school, there's no way you can do that. There's 5 things going on at once. Like,
get some more sets of eyes. Come on, figure it out.
yeah.
Last question, Eric, start with you. What does being an athletic trainer mean to you?
I love being an athletic trainer. My other degree that I got in school was a physical education degree, and I love being an educator, whether that's about the injury that an athlete is facing, about the profession, about the hospital and the resources that we offer to the community. So I love kind of being that little bit of jack of all trades and having a little bit of information that I can be that resource kind of post and be like, hey, based on what I'm seeing or who I'm talking to, I can give you the information that you need to help you out. So kind of very selfless in that, like, if you're happy, I'm happy,
Like it. Emily?
Something that I love about this profession, and I know I am very much going to miss, is it's so unique among healthcare professions that we see our patients every day when they're well. We're there when something goes bad. We see them go through getting better, and then we see them every day again when they're fine. And that, I think, is the best part of the profession, just the relationships that we get to make. for me as a college athlete, like I have those relationships with the people who took care of me, who were the same people that educated me as an athletic trainer as well. But that is for sure what I'm going to miss the most going into the PA profession. And it's kind of driving me to look to the setting that I would like to be in the PA profession, because it's more like that. And so I think those relationships are to me are very precious. And I think that that we should value them all, because it is, even something that's similar to us, like a physical therapist, they see patients 2 to 3 times a week for 6 weeks, and then you might never see them again. And one of the things I love the most is, seeing my athletes later, following them on social media, watching them grow into, adults as high schoolers, or just watching them live their lives as, adults, and seeing them and seeing where they are.
Absolutely.
And that's I went to a game over break while I was home at the college that I used to work at, and saw some of my former athletes, and it's a little sad to not have that anymore.
I can understand that one completely. Just before we wrap up, if people wanted to reach out to you, Emily, where would be the best place for them to connect or do so? And we'll link all this up on the episode page.
I am on Twitter at htown_ATC. Not on social media a lot once school starts. I'm kind of studying, but they can also find me on Facebook as Emily Huston, and they want to talk to me, send me a message.
And Eric?
So mostly I'm on Twitter, aka X.
Yes, I refuse.
Whatever it is. And it's at Rogers ES2 is my Twitter handle. I'm on Instagram some. I think it's E_Rogers_ATC.
Perfect. And again, we'll link all this up so everybody has it. I can easily find it. But I just want to thank you both for taking the time, kind of sharing your perspective on NATA renewal. It will always continue to be a hot topic, but I think just getting more nuanced conversation about it, and again, not just yelling into the X sphere of 280 characters or a thread to make it can sometimes be useful just to truly get down into some of the nuance of it all. So thank you both for taking the time to do so.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Athletic Training Chat and our discussion around NATA renewal. It's ultimately a personal decision, but really it seems like the bottom line is you can contribute as much as you want, and that's what people are looking for, is really finding what the money is going to, how it's coming back to them, and representing the profession and everyone within it, and the resources that are able to be put together by that. So a lot of things to consider with your NATA renewal. One thing just to finish up with that is if you are concerned about the NATA and you want to make change, you have to be a member to do that, and that's something to keep in mind. And there's a lot of people out there that do, and finding those and figuring out how to constructively make that happen is going to be essential to the future of our profession, and I hope we can continue to do that and move forward in that way. As always, we are powered by Mueller Sports Medicine. Thank you for everything they do in supporting us as athletic trainers and as the podcast. And if you haven't checked it out yet, check out Wave On Health with Adam Halpern. We got a few more episodes coming out with him around entrepreneurship, business ownership, and things along those avenues. Really excited to get those out. But thank you again for listening. We truly appreciate it. We'd love to hear from you. Please consider coming on the show, and we'll talk to you later.